to the Money RX for CRNAs podcast, where you go behind the scenes with host Brett Fellows, CFP, as he explores the unique opportunities and challenges facing certified registered nurse anesthetist along the path to financial independence. In each episode, Brett shares expert insights and actionable advice, equipping you with the tools you need to take control of your financial destiny and retire on your terms. And now, here's your host, Brett Fellows.
It's hard for me to believe that we are already in the 5th week of this podcast series. So if you've been listening, or maybe if you're new, here's what's been going on. I have a framework that I have developed over the last 20 years in this business that I use to help CRNAs. So this is what I essentially built for my own financial life that allowed me to work a 7-figure firm as a solo professional, all the while taking about 3.5 days per week to do it. It all came down for me to having systems and processes in creating a financial plan. So I've formalized it into what I call Money RX for CRNAs, secrets and strategies to maximize wealth and retirement. Essentially, what we've done is we've taken all of the big processes and the micro processes that live within those big processes, and I've organized them for you in this book. Essentially, there are 5 layers that all of these processes of a financial plan fall into. And I like to think of it like a cake, and I mentioned this way back in the first episode. But each layer has its own ingredients. And when you add all the right ingredients in the right order, layer after layer, you end up with a super sweet and delicious financial plan. And one that really serves a life that you love. So now that we're into chapter 4, we've been building layer upon layer. And this week is going to be all about how to be an owner, not a loner. And this topic is one of my favorites, so in the spirit of time, let's dive right in. One CRNA client once told me that if she practiced anesthesia the way she'd been investing, she'd kill half the people she saw. When it came to her work as a CRNA, she would never prescribe a drug before reading peer-reviewed evidence to make sure all the trials went well. But when it came to investing, she assumed that she should be able to use her intuition to make good decisions. After all, she was smart and informed. How hard could it be to pick a few winners? Well, part of the investor's dilemma is that no matter how much data we have about the past, we have no data about the future. No matter what history says about the long-term upward trend of the stock market, we still don't know for sure what the future will bring. So after all the spreadsheets are put away, investing becomes a matter of faith. Now, this act of faith is most evident when it comes to the stock market. We have to ask ourselves, do we believe that stocks will continue to do better than bonds, and bonds will continue to do better than cash just as they always have? If we can accept that basic framework, then temporary declines, no matter how terrifying, are just part of the deal. While this doesn't make investing easy, it does make it easier. You work hard for your money, and one of the greatest benefits of owning more is making your money work for you. And this ties directly into the capital balance sheet we talked about earlier. It's about owning versus owing. And let's break it down. What you own versus what you owe. In this context, owning will always have a bigger upside than loaning. The power of ownership. Take a house, for example. You buy a home, and the mortgage lender has a stake in it. However, They only own the amount they initially loaned you. You, as the homeowner, get all the potential gains on the house. As the property increases in value, your financial benefits grows. The lender, on the other hand, is stuck with the fixed return they get from the interest on the loan. Yes, they'll get their principal back with interest, but none of the appreciation. When my wife and I bought our home for $475,000, we took out a $375,000 mortgage. Fast forward 20 years, and that same home is now worth $1 million. Now, as owners, we get all the appreciation in value. Again, the lender got their principal back and interest, but not a penny more. So this illustrates that ownership, whether in real estate or stocks, brings the potential for greater wealth over time. Again, that same concept applies to stocks. When you invest in stocks, you're stepping into the shoes of an owner. Yes, there's more risk, but the potential reward is much greater. Bonds, on the other hand, are like being the lender. You'll get steady interest, but your returns are capped, and you're not part of the business's growth. And this is why I prefer stocks over bonds in most situations. Consider a CRNA who starts her own 1099 business. She might take out a loan to get started. Now, the lender gets collateral and a steady interest rate, but no matter how successful the CRNA business becomes, the lender only sees that fixed return. The CRNA, on the other hand, takes on more risk. If things don't go well, she could lose her business. But if it thrives, she keeps all the profits and the increased value. Sounds appealing, doesn't it? Over the last 97 years, the return for the owner of stocks has been nearly 3 times that of the lender, bonds. And even after accounting for inflation, bonds provide stability. But if you're aiming for long-term wealth or planning to leave a substantial estate, stocks are historically the better option. Bonds certainly have their place in a portfolio for stability and income. But if your goal is to grow wealth, being an owner is the path to getting there. Hold, don't sell. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, famously said, "Our favorite holding period is forever." Well, what does that mean? Even during market declines of 5%, 10%, or even 50%, Buffett doesn't sell. Instead, he holds, or even buys more during times of volatility. One of the reasons Buffett has been so successful is that he sees himself as a permanent owner of the businesses he invests in. And while we may not have Buffett's level of expertise, there is a lesson that we can imitate. Viewing ourselves as permanent owners of our investments allows us to remain calm during market fluctuations. Volatility is just a temporary distraction. Investing can feel uncomfortable at times, yes, but if we act like owners, we can weather the storm. Now, unfortunately, financial media hype tends to have the opposite effect. When markets drop, headlines start to sound like a crisis, scaring people into pulling their money out. But this is the worst thing you can do. Markets go up and down, and over time, they always recover. By staying calm and keeping your money invested, you can achieve a sense of peace even when the markets are volatile. How I invest my own money. If I had to sum up my approach to investing, it's this. Every investor should choose a strategy that gives them the best chance of reaching their goals. Now, for most people, I believe that strategy is dollar cost averaging into a low cost index fund, which provides the highest chance of success over the long term. Beating the market is tough, and it should be. If it were easy, everyone would do it, and there wouldn't be any opportunity left. The idea that you can consistently outperform the market is a short-term strategy that rarely works. So it's no surprise that most people who try to beat the market don't succeed. My family's financial goals are focused on long-term growth, which is why we consistently invest in low-cost index funds and let our money grow over decades. This aligns with our lifestyle of purposeful spending. If we can meet our goals without taking any unnecessary risks, why bother? I don't need to be the world's best investor, but I certainly can't afford to be a bad one. And when I think of it that way, investing in index funds and holding on for the long term is the obvious choice. We invest from every paycheck into these index funds, splitting between US and international stocks. We max out our retirement accounts with the same funds, and we contributed to our kids' 529 college savings plans. Now, your plan may look different, but I always recommend keeping it simple. And that's really it. Our net worth mostly consists of our home, my company, a checking account, and index funds. Some client examples, Michael and Sarah. A common question I get is, how much should I invest in stocks? Should you be 100% in stocks? 50%? And the answer depends on your specific situation. Michael and Sarah are great clients who demonstrate how risk tolerance and experience can shape your portfolio. They're both young and have solid incomes. Michael is a business owner, which has put them in a fantastic financial position. Their net worth is substantial, and Michael has a lot of investing experience. And because of this, they're comfortable keeping 90% of their portfolio in stock index funds. Now, that level of risk isn't for everyone, but Michael's experience with the markets allows him to handle it. Plus, they have time on their side. They regularly add to their accounts and don't pay much attention to short-term market movements. It's more of a set it and forget it strategy. They have the time, and they've built other financial safety nets to absorb any market fluctuations. So in this case, having 90% of their portfolio in stocks makes complete sense. Jim and Elsa. Michael's parents, Jim and Elsa, are also clients, but their approach to investing is much different. They're retired and have a very low-key lifestyle. They don't spend a lot, but what's most important to them is maintaining their lifestyle and spending time with their grandchildren. Jim and Elsa are also passionate about giving back. Jim donates $25,000 annually to his alma mater to fund a program for architecture students, and Elsa gives $10,000 to her college. Their charitable giving is important to them, and it influences how we structure their finances. For them, we keep 50 to 60% of their portfolio in stocks, and the rest in safer investments, because they need access to those funds. They don't have the time to recover from a significant market downturn, and their risk tolerance is therefore lower. This is a middle ground approach that gives them peace of mind while still allowing for some growth. Chad and Gretchen. Another example of the importance of sticking to your financial plan comes from Chad and Gretchen. Their story shows how external events can derail even the best plans. Chad retired in February of 2020, just as the COVID-19 pandemic was beginning. In the first 2 weeks of his retirement, his 401k lost 30% of its value. Now, understandably, he was shaken. Fearing that he'd just lost his family's savings, he pulled all his money out of the stock market. Unfortunately, by November 2020, the market had completely rebounded, and Chad missed the recovery. By selling at the bottom and repurchasing later, he realized a significant loss. Now, this story isn't unique to Chad and Gretchen. Many people panicked during the pandemic and made similar decisions. But the lesson here is clear. If you stick to your plan and ride out the volatility, you'll avoid locking in those losses. So patience and discipline are key. Stick to the plan. Whether you're like Michael and Sarah with a high risk tolerance, or like Jim and Elsa with a more conservative approach, the key is to find a plan that works for you and stick with it. Markets will fluctuate, but with the right strategy, you'll be positioned to meet your financial goals. As always, keep listening to the podcast because I'm giving you all the details here and I'm walking you through everything. And next episode is Chapter 5, where we're going to talk everything retirement and taxes. And you know, I try every episode to give you some super tactical takeaways that you can implement into your financial life pretty quickly, pretty immediately, so that you can move the needle and see big change and fast. However, forming habits around money is long and hard, and don't beat yourself up about it if you're not getting all of these processes built out in the week you listen to the episode. I mean, it takes us 10 months with our CRNA client community to onboard a new client and cover all of this in bite-sized pieces just to build out a financial plan for CRNAs. So even that, it's a beast of a program. And if you're interested, we'd love to have you. If you have more questions about whether or not your specific situation makes sense to become part of our CRNA client community or not, we have discovery calls, and you can find the link for the discovery call in the show notes or out on our website, oakcapitaladvisor.com. You want to schedule a free pre-op assessment. That is our discovery call link. As always, we also hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram, and we would love to connect with you more there. Until next time, have an amazing rest of your week.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. This podcast does not engage in rendering legal, financial, or other professional services.